Welcome back. I'm Udar Pratap Singh. You're joining us on NewsX. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has met with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Kuala Lumpur as India and the U.S. work to repair ties strained by Washington's steep tariffs on Indian exports. The meeting took place on the sidelines of the annual summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, also known as ASEAN. In a post on X, the External Affairs Minister said he appreciated discussions on India-U.S. bilateral ties as well as regional and global issues. This encounter took place as the two nations are finalizing a proposed bilateral trade agreement, which officials indicate is nearing completion. Remember, last week, Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal emphasized that India would not rush into any trade agreement or accept terms from partner countries that might restrict its trading choices. With 5 rounds of talks already held, the question that arises is how soon will this deal be made? Joining us live, Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, former diplomat. Andrew Latham, Professor of International Relations, is joining us live from Minneapolis in the United States of America. Dr. Sharad Kohli, economist, joins us live. Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, is also with us on the broadcast. Let me make a start with you first. Ambassador Kapoor, what do you make of this meeting that took place between S. Jaishankar and his counterpart from the U.S., Marco Rubio, on the sidelines of ASEAN? How constructive would this meeting have been, in your opinion?
Well, considering that the state of affairs currently is, practically at rock bottom, any meeting is useful to lift it out of the deep well that it has sunk into. So I'm sure they would have had some very useful discussions, because there is a lot of positives which are there in the relationship between the US and India. Both add great value to the other partner. For the future of both these countries, a very strong strategic partnership with the other is very, very essential. The tariff and trade part of it is a very small segment of the entire relationship. There are too many aspects in this very, very broad-based relationship. So the trade and tariff part also, which was at rock bottom level, has to be revived, has to be sort of, resurrected, reset. So slowly it will happen, because for both these countries, it is absolutely essential to have everything going ahead positively with each other. It will take a little bit of time, but as soon as the midterm elections come near, and if there is any, sort of threat to the Republicans in terms of their hold on the Senate or the Congress, and if the houses flip over, then it will make the current president a lame duck president. So for that, if you remember, Uday, during the last elections, in all the 7 swing states, the Republicans won. President Trump won by some margins. Large number of those votes which went to him for the first time were the Hindus, because earlier the Hindus had been voting in very large numbers for the Democrats as a percentage. And for the first time in this election, a lot of votes swung towards the Republicans, also partly because of the woke agenda of the Democrats, because of the Democrat vice presidential nominee signing an agreement with the Muslims for equal power sharing, because of all the things that they were doing which were against the Hindu interests in the US. So I guess they thought that it would be better to go with the Republicans. And the numbers who voted in the swing states from the Hindu community were more than the margin of votes which Donald Trump finally got in all the 7 swing states. And he appreciates that. And if he has to retain that voter base or increase that voter base and augment it, for him to improve the relations with India would be given. So I think that realization will come soon. Plus, the other factor is that currently Pakistan has become the flavor of the season in the administration for various reasons, whether it's the quantum exchange that the crypto exchange that they've got access to, whether it's the minerals they think they will get, the rare earth minerals which may exist to very small extent.
Stay with us, Ambassador Kapoor. Also joining us now is Andrew Latham. Let me quickly draw him in as well from the US. Andrew, what's the perspective you're picking up on this Rubio-Jaishankar meeting? How important was this meeting in of course, taking forward India-U.S. ties and also helping bridge the gap that seems to have developed as well. How important would this meeting have been, and what can be gauged from the statements given by both after the meeting as well?
Well, I think one of the things that is the takeaway here is if we can just for a moment, we as a planet, get beyond President Trump and his mercurial personality, shall we say, and talk about American national interests, which imperfectly are being funneled through President Trump, we can see that the United States has a real interest in striking a deal, getting this off the front pages, as it were, with India. Those have to do with geopolitics, having a reliable partner in the Indo-Pacific, a big major power, a great power. Has to do with supply chain diversification away from China, has to do with investment opportunities, has to do with keeping that Hindu diaspora in the United States, which has trended Republican, keep it trending that way. That's an important domestic political consideration as well. And so there's every reason for the United States, President Trump, to get off its high horse, low horse, some horse, and actually simply do a deal here. And similarly for Prime Minister Modi, he has interests as well. He's not going to sacrifice strategic autonomy or certain constituencies within the Indian political economy. But having a good relationship with the U.S., given the situation with China as it is evolving, and given the economic opportunities that have been exploited and that could be exploited, he has every reason to want a deal as well. So if we can just get past the partisan politics, the personalities to some extent, and do a deal based on national interests, where they align, where they meet, and where they support each other, I think this is a very positive step along the path toward that kind of deal.
All right, let me also join Dr. Kohli now. Dr. Kohli, looking at this meeting and the progress, of course, in India-U.S. ties, and also the statement that came in from Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal not too long back, how close or how far are we from striking a deal?
Well, good evening, Uday. Good evening to my fellow panelists in NewsX. We are as close as it can be, and we are as far as we can be. And what do both of these phrases mean? As close because we've been talking about the deal happening for months now. Every time two of our officials talk, any official from MEA or Commerce Ministry and their trade representatives, there's always a hope. And then suddenly comes a statement, well, India is a great country and Prime Minister Modi is a great leader. And then thereafter something happens, So we are as close and as far. The taste of the enjoyment of pudding is in tasting it. Unless it happens, I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound pessimistic, but I'm being realistic. I loved what Andrew said and Ambassador Kapoor said. They were sounding very optimistic, but I would like to give it a different flavor, because the closeness when he says Asif Munir and Shahbaz Sharif are great people. I saw his statement yesterday. Well, that questions the whole mindset, because if you call a terrorist state leaders as great people for your own vested interests, I'm sorry, I do not really concur with that mindset when he knows he's been a victim of that terrorism from that country. Osama bin Laden was picked up from that very country. Point number one. Point number two, the ASEAN meeting which is happening, and the great Milan, shall I say, the great meeting which is going to happen between President Xi Jinping and President Donald Trump on Thursday. I think the whole world is looking at that meeting. And I was giving an interview to a leading national daily about an hour ago. And they asked me this question, will this have any impact on India? So S. Jaishankar's MEA's meeting here and the meeting with the US counterpart, probably is just a background. When you've gone to an ASEAN Summit, you do say, hi, hello, how are you doing? So how are we working on the deal? All goes well. We should work out a solution, and so on and so forth. I'm sure Ambassador Kapoor knows better than anybody else as to what happens at these dialogues. But these are, some of them are photo ops and you just discuss. But then the real thing comes out. So the question I was asked by the national daily is, will this have any impact on India-US relations and India-China relations? A very complicated question to answer. I said India is non-aligned. We don't believe in taking sides. Probably some people in America and here felt that India has now gone into the into the section of China and Russia and has gone away from US. That was never the case. India is non-aligned. We maintain relations on one-on-one basis. We are not prevailed by because we are close to one country, so we should distance ourselves from the other country. The prudent approach which Prime Minister Modi and Government of India has shown so far in all those truth social missiles which have been fired on India at different intervals, they have been mixed with some brownies as well, because you had, as I said, India is a great friend. Prime Minister Modi is a great leader. He's doing a great job sitting on the top, and so on. So we keep hearing all sorts of statements, but then they are laced with these actions which do not. So action and words somehow do not meet. H1B, sanctions on Chabahar port, 50% tariffs, and I think the list just goes on and on. So therefore, when you enjoy the pudding, you will have to taste it. So unless it happens, I'm sorry. I don't want to sound very optimistic. My learned previous two panelists, they are very experienced. They have already expressed their optimism. I do not deny that. I honor and respect them. But for me, I'm an economist. I believe in actions. I do not believe in words. Unless, our Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said the same thing, that we'll not like to rush into it. Now, that is a diplomatic way of saying that probably it's not going to happen anytime very soon. Isn't that the message, that we don't want to rush into it? So that's another way of saying that we can't rush into it. You may be able to convince China to take your soya bean. You may be able to convince China that take my soya bean, but you can't convince us to get your dairy and agri here.
Right.
And you want us to press a switch off on the Russian oil. We may be doing it over a period of time. We can't switch it off like a button, Uday.
Okay, let me also get in Gautam Mukherjee as well. Gautam, now the fact, of course, is that this deal has been talked about for a while. There was, of course, a freeze on negotiations, on talks for a few weeks in the middle. They're back in full earnest now. But with this latest statement from the Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, where he says we will not allow anything that will restrict our autonomy in trading partners and trading decisions, what can be gauged from that statement, Gautam? Also, what can be gauged from the Union External Affairs Minister's statement after this meeting on the sidelines of ASEAN?
I think a lot of water has been flowing down the bridge ever since America took a bullying attitude towards India. One of the first things was, of course, the SCO meeting. Yesterday, Mr. Lula, after meeting with Trump, made a long speech in which he once again extolled the benefits of belonging to BRICS and the trade that is possible on a multilateral basis with a number of countries who are friends of Brazil and India, for that matter. I think that aspect, including trading in either our own currency or in the currency of our bilateral partner or the yuan, these things have all been happening at an elevated pace ever since America took the attitude, and their policy wonks must have advised them that all you got to do is lean very hard on India and they will buckle. That is not going to happen. The remarks that our Commerce Minister made, the remarks that our External Affairs Minister made, the remarks that the Prime Minister made in terms of 2047, some of the remarks of ASEAN members such as the Philippines, who praised India as a great friend of ASEAN, pointedly, meant a lot of things. And I think when and if, and I do believe it's more when than if, we do arrive at an interim trade agreement with the United States, it'll be on terms that suit us and suit them to the extent it is possible. It's got to be a win-win, a give and take, not a one-way street, not pushing us into a corner. because we are making alternative arrangements and will continue to make alternative arrangements with or without the American trade agreement. We are also working quite hard on the EU agreement, but of course, the EU agreement will be watching America to see what happens, because they are so beholden to America that they dare not do anything that might put off America. The British one went through because it's been in the works for the last several years, but in terms of implementation, it's not going as fast as all that. Some of the military agreements that have been made are probably proceeding, but I don't see much evidence on the ground on the commercial side of things. So we have to wait and see. I do believe we'll eventually get there, but like Sharad, I'm not holding my breath. Uday.
All right, let me quickly go back across to then Ambassador Kapoor. Ambassador Kapoor, do you believe that these sticking points will finally be ironed out? Are you hopeful of that deal happening before the end of 2025, or does that seem a bit difficult?
Well, given the fact that decision making is being done at the level of the President of the U.S., it is not an analysis by the concerned officials of the concerned ministries or departments. There is very little logic to it or rationale to it. It's very arbitrary. It's very random. So, as long as his aim is also to see how it benefits the US or benefits the Republican Party or benefits him in a personal manner, as is the case with Pakistan, it is not going to happen very soon. What I was trying to say, while I'm very gung-ho and optimistic about the overall nature of the India-US relationship, which is very important for the US, which is very important for India and very important for the world, but the trade and tariff issue is not going to be resolved in a hurry. It's going to take time, and till it dawns upon the current administration and the president that it is going to be of direct benefit to them in some way or the other, and India is not going to sort of give up on its points, as has been mentioned by the Commerce Minister also and by our other panelists here. So it's not going to happen in a hurry. Now, things like Japan offering $650 billion of investment into the US and then getting a sweet deal, or Korea offering $350 billion of investments into the US and getting their tariffs lowered, or Pakistan seemingly offering things which may exist or may not exist, like oil and gold and rare earths and minerals, and then getting off the hook and getting a lot of support from the World Bank, from the IMF. So India is not a country which is built on superficial arguments or artificial reasonings. So we don't do that in our diplomacy, and we have never done that. So the arguments and the negotiations which are held by the Indian interlocutors are based on very solid facts. There is a lot of consultation which goes on the ground in India, within the central government, within the different communities like the agricultural community or the dairy community or the industrial community, between the center and the states. So there is a continuous process of consultation and dialogue and discussion. And then you arrive at a particular consensus as to what is going to be India's position at that forum, whether it is India-US bilateral trade or any other regional trade agreement. So for India to change its position in a hurry is not going to happen. But what I'm saying is that the overall benefits to both the countries of striking a trade deal will be quite a lot. So at some stage, they have to see what is the via media, what is the middle meeting grounds to come to. A little bit of give and take will happen.
What are the biggest sticking points according to you, Dr. Kohli, right now?
Well, I think Russian oil, of course, is at top of the list, and the sanctions on Rosneft and Lukoil, they just might prove a hindrance as far as supply is concerned. That's one. And as far as the basic trade is concerned, agri and dairy. I mean, you cannot allow fodder which is based on meat. In this country, 35% of this country is vegetarian, and cattle. Some part of the cattle is also worshipped. We cannot allow that cattle to come here. And then genetically modified crops in India are not allowed. They're barred. So that cannot happen. We cannot allow free flow of crops. We are primarily an agriculture-driven country. 60 to 70% of our economy comprises directly or indirectly of agriculture. We have to think of our farmers. The fabric of our economy, the structure of our economy is such that I think I just fail to understand as to why someone is not understanding the basic structure of economy. Because when you do a trade deal, so that I know, you study the fabric, the structure of the economy, and then you start the discussion that whether this product is going to land there. Do they need it, or do they don't need it? You can't just we use a word called thopify. You can't just throw the product here and say because we want to do trade, and trades cannot be done with a gun on the head. I feel, Uday, trade is a natural evolution. Two countries, you make something nice, I make something better. You make something cheaper, I make something more expensive. You got a different climate, I've got a different climate. Our consumption pattern is different, your consumption pattern is different. I think trade is an evolution of these factors. I have never seen trade being done in a manner when you put the gun on the head. Either you do it or you will have tariffs. Either you do this or you will have tariffs. I was joking with somebody. I don't know if in White House somebody does a mistake, you'll be slapped with tariffs. So tariff seems to be the solution now to everything. When a video of Canada goes online, you will slap 10%. What is tariff the biggest weapon of this era? I mean, I'm suddenly, because people hadn't heard of these tariffs earlier, in this manner. Now suddenly tariff has become the biggest weapon. It is more than a nuclear weapon for that matter, where you threaten somebody with a tariff. I think that is not the way trade evolves. Trade is a natural process. You have to allow it to evolve over decades, Uday.
Let me get you in here as well, Andrew, on, of course, also the double speak on why there is this hesitation in penalizing China, in slapping secondary sanctions and tariffs on China, but they happen vis-a-vis India and others.
Well, I think that some people in the Trump administration look at those others as relatively weak compared to China. And what they're finding out is whether it's Canada or India, they were wrong about that. And so what we're seeing, of course, is as a Canadian, I can say anything I want about Canada on this broadcast. But the reaction in Canada has been very defensive. It has. I think the threat of tariffs was meant to not so much be a gun at the head, but a signal that you better take this seriously. We're putting this on the agenda in a way that you can't ignore. Now we're going to talk about, because I agree with my colleague my economist colleague, when he says that these things take time. Anything worth having takes time. I mean, that's just the way it is. But in Washington, the sense was that the Canadians and the Indians and a few others around the world had thought they could put this on the back burner forever and not come to the table, recognizing that if you come to the table, everybody has to make concessions. Some concessions are relatively easy given domestic politics. Some, and here Canada and India are the same, the dairy and agriculture sectors in Canada are taboo. You cannot touch them. And yet, the United States wants them opened to American products. There isn't the Hindu religious and other religious overtones in the Canadian context. It's just that those are important constituencies that can't be alienated. So the trick, if I can frame it that way, for Washington and New Delhi and Washington and Ottawa and Washington and others, is to find, now that he's got everybody's attention, find some common ground via media, as the ambassador put it, that everybody can buy into, that will advance the agenda in terms of the economic logic of comparative advantage, which again, my economist friend was talking about a little bit earlier. So I'm not optimistic in a giddy way. I'm guardedly optimistic that I think the arc of history is bending in that direction for both Canada and the U.S. and for India and the U.S. Fingers crossed, I hope I'm right. But surprise, surprise, I've been wrong before.
Okay, let me quickly, in fact, thank you all for joining us. We've run out of time. We're quickly turning our focus to more news coming in.